Welcome back from the Backseat Football Podcast. We are back with another action-packed weekend. Man City have lost for the second game in a row in the league. Spurs might be winning the league, or Arsenal, depending on where your affiliation is in North London. Liverpool and Brighton have a thriller, so do West Ham and Newcastle. Some other shit games, you know how it goes. I'm joined as always by Jack. Jack, how are you today?
Hello, I'm good, thank you, mate. I'm good. Interesting weekend of football. Bit mixed, I'd say, from a Liverpool perspective. But what you really want when you don't have the best weekend is other teams to drop points. And thankfully, a few did. So it wasn't too bad overall.
No, certainly at the top. In terms of the top
interesting.
6, yeah, it was a good one for gaining points at the top, for sure. Before we jump into that, I have a bone to pick. A little birdie told me that you sold my sofa for £50.
That is technically true, but it'd been in my garage for so long that it was my sofa at that point.
I just don't know.
It's what I like to call
squatters' rights on my sofa, which I don't know how I feel. And then
do you know what it was, right? Do you know what it was, right? Had you not covertly put the sofa in my garage under cover of darkness, then maybe I would have been more open. But to just wake up and find a sofa in there one day with all your stuff, I thought,
there's nothing covert about. I asked you.
You asked me after it was in there.
I don't know about that. We're going to have to get the receipts out. But all I'm saying is, no one told me you'd sold the sofa for money, right?
Oh,
so
yes.
You covertly sold the sofa.
And if there are more of your things in there, they are going on Gumtree as well.
It's outrageous. I'm going to go in there and steal some of your shit. I can't have this. I'm claiming £50 worth of garage items.
Good luck. Good luck. That is the fee for putting stuff in my garage. I hope you've learned a harsh lesson.
Right. People, tell me, am I in the right or am I in the wrong? Should I be asking for £50 reimbursement from Jack for his shady, dodgy deals?
For 8 months rent on putting stuff in the garage.
Mate, it took up like a tenth of your garage. It was stacked really well as well, I remember.
No, mate, there's been a redevelopment. I'll show you the new garage. It's empty. You'll love it.
It's beef. It's beef.
Big beef.
I accept. So, on to actual football. Arsenal won. Man City 0. We fucking did it. 8 years in the making.
Well
8
played.
years, 12 losses on the trot in the league against City. And you know what? I spoke to a couple of Arsenal fans ahead of this game. And there wasn't a lot of confidence. Confidence levels were very low when it came to this game against City. Now, understandable. Didn't have Saka. But the caveat here, and something that really should be pointed out before we go into it, no Rodri, no De Bruyne. And De Bruyne is usually the pants puller when we play against City, always just absolutely doing us in. And it's an interesting one, because we played better last year when we lost 3-1 at home to City than we did in this game. And it was a kind of very mature performance from Arsenal, in the sense that they managed the game really well for the whole 95 minutes. I think they had 4 shots, Man City, 1 on target. No. In fact, I think it was 4 shots and 1 on target, their lowest in God knows how long. And Haaland didn't have a sniff. Got managed very well by Saliba and Gabriel, who had, I think, maybe some of their best games in an Arsenal shirt. It was a very kind of jittery atmosphere at the Emirates, because we always get humbled by them. So it really felt like a big mental block got released when that final whistle went. And you can see how much it meant to all the Arsenal players, the fans, and of course Arteta getting one over on the master for the first time. It does feel like a seismic one, but then that is hyperbole, to be honest with you. And we made this mistake last season. It's too early to say that this has any real impact, but the title race, as of right now of recording, is open. It's open. It's so open. And it's looking like it's going to be an exciting year.
Yeah, but then it is also the 9th of October, so it's very hard to make any definitive judgments, and my default position is that Man City are going to steamroll the league still, and we're all just not even going to remember how we felt. This small ray of optimism.
Well, we had this last autumn, didn't we? I'm pretty sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Arsenal won like 14 out of 15 to start the season or something ridiculous. Like, you were unstoppable, and they still reeled you in, so I wouldn't get too excited, but you are right. It's a mental blocker achieved. A win over City at home not with like that much convincing play. It was a win of steel, you know. Declan Rice was basically the embodiment of just chopping people and just being solid. It's very Mourinho-esque, actually. A nice 1-0 against your rivals where you give them very little and you get a bit of fortune and you just go, yeah, that's what we deserve. See you later.
We deserved it. I felt like going into the 70th minute, someone was going to edge it. And whoever scored the goal was going to win the game, basically, because it was just on a knife's edge the whole time, really. City had a lot of domination without really any penetration. And again, for a defensive performance, really, it was one of the better ones I've seen for Arsenal in God knows how long. Really, really impressed with all the back four. You felt like Ben White might lose concentration at some point. You certainly felt like Zinchenko might drop a clanger, as he usually does in these big games. David Raya was absolutely bricking it. We should probably mention that in the first half.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Because that playing out for the back moment where he just smacked the ball into Alvarez and almost scored an own goal. That was
City
the sign of someone a bit overawed by the occasion.
Yeah,
or a little bit under pressure.
Yeah. To be honest with you, he was awful in the first half. But we stuck to the plan. That's what I liked about it, is that we continued to try and play out from the back. And I think that's really important. Because we didn't differentiate from the game. But yeah, hearts were in mouths when he just inexplicably kicked it into Julian Alvarez. I thought it was a goal. I'll be honest.
Me too.
I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this just happened. But it wasn't. It wasn't a goal. And he was much better in the second half. In fact, the whole Arsenal team were better in the second half. So whatever Arteta said to them must have really rung true of them. And people can say, Rodri didn't play, and we should point out that in the 3-game ban, they've lost all 3 games, which you wouldn't put City as a one-man team, but it's hard to argue.
Interesting, isn't it? It's very interesting how he's become their most important player, more than De Bruyne, more than anyone.
But you saw it, right? You could imagine, though, they would have had way more control in midfield if he'd been in the game. Obviously, he's that kind of player. It's like if we didn't have Declan Rice, you lose that control. And that's what happened against Tottenham, for example, in the 2-2 at the Emirates, is that we didn't have midfield control. So therefore, the whole game plan kind of went out the window. And I think it's the same for City. It's really hard to emulate the kind of role that Rodri has. So very fortunate, but I'm glad we took advantage of it. Very, very glad.
Amen. Usually they can ride it out and get away with it. It doesn't really make an impact. So it's nice to see that they're a bit human. And sometimes they just have good players who, when they're out, they're just a bit average. They can't always mask over all the cracks. Usually they find a way with this weird, 2 strikers on the pitch at all times. Basically 4-2-4 formation. I don't think it was.
What do you think about the kind of feedback that they're ruining football? 4 defenders, a cam in a CDM role, 2 strikers, no actual wingers. It was a very narrow game, wasn't it? Both
it was very narrow. But I think playing 4 centre-backs, or basically 5 centre-backs, it does mean that you don't get many shots. You don't have a lot of creativity. And the fact that, Haaland had next year 0.00, the fact that they only had 1 shot on target, that is the reality. I mean, even in the games where they've won recently, it's like a free kick from Alvarez, or it's like a couple of half chances they just gobble up. This is not the best version of City we've seen, where they have 30 shots and 70% possession and they just destroy you 5-0. This is a much more like Mourinho version.
Wow.
And no one likes that. And maybe it's just Pep's one step ahead of everyone.
I think it's just because De Bruyne's... The Haaland drop-off has coincided with De Bruyne's injury. No one could make those passes to him. And he is... For how good he is at goal scoring, he is pretty bang average at everything else. Or he was in this game.
What? Haaland? Yeah, he doesn't turn up in the big games. It's an interesting one. He's the ultimate flat track bully. He's the ultimate flat track bully, mate.
He is. And I think he really struggled without his partner in crime, KDB. And I think we took advantage of that. And I think teams need to take advantage of that. He can be nullified if he's not getting the service. And no one was really playing him any balls, in all fairness to him. And it was a cagey game. There wasn't a lot of chances. There really wasn't a lot of clear-cut chances at all. Even Martinelli's winner, you couldn't really argue that was a clear-cut chance because it was a deflection. It would have gone straight into Edison's hands had it not gone off Ake's head, which was really unfortunate. I do want to talk about the biggest controversial point. It'd be good to get your opinion because I certainly have mine. Kovacic with 2.
Get him out of there.
It's
That was actually
outrageous, isn't it?
scandalous.
I can't believe they didn't give a second yellow. You just know that they didn't want to ruin the game after last week, but it's like there's no consistency. It was a second yellow.
Ruin it. Ruin the game. That is what happens. My feeling now is that everything's a red card with studs. After the Tottenham game, I'm still upset.
Well,
Any studs up challenge is a red.
I wasn't in the red card camp for the first one. I
feel like it was orange. Could have been a red.
Naughty,
it was malicious.
Yeah.
It was more malicious than Curtis Jones, for example. It looks better, but it was more malicious. There's more intent.
Absolutely.
Like, he's really gone for it.
And there was no way he was going to win the ball from that angle, so he was definitely going for it.
Like, he's gone through the back of Odegaard, which is a red.
And it was high.
With his studs. And it was high. He had all the hallmarks of a classic red card on FIFA, and yet somehow it's a yellow. Oh, fuck me. How on earth has he got away with the second one, where he's basically just chopped someone? It's a yellow all day long. I think
Michael Oliver's thought, all right, Rice is trying to get him sent off. There wasn't a lot of contact. But on replay, it's basically the same challenge, like clear studs on ankle. It's a second yellow. He was a very lucky boy. And I would have been fuming if we hadn't have won the game. And that would have been the main talking point. Because we would have, again, gone to the whole referee debacle, right? We would have just been complaining about the refs again.
100%.
So, I'm glad we're in agreement there. Okay, well, look, before we move on...
He should have been banned, and you should have won that game more comfortably. Even though you've got the win that you deserved, he should have still been off.
Arguably, if they did get sent off, Man City would have gone into a low block and it would have probably petered out to a 0-0. So it's hard to say for sure. Sometimes a red card ruins the games for both teams. But certainly I would have been pissed off if it hadn't been a win for Arsenal. And you know what? For 85 minutes, it looked like it wasn't going to be. I do want to talk about...
Right. I'm going to need you to monologue for 1 sec because this is live. I need to let my partner in quickly. Sorry, everyone. Huge monologue. Just do your thing.
It's just poor planning, but usually it's me, so I'm just going to monologue. What I'm saying is I'd like to talk about the subs that we brought in about the 70th minute. We brought on Kai Havertz, Tomiyasu. Fucking hell, who was the next one? Thomas Partey.
Martinelli.
No, Martinelli came on at half-time for Trossard. I'm talking about the late subs. Now,
I'm curious about Tomiyasu.
Sorry, mate. I was trying to monologue. Why don't you just shut up? So you wouldn't put those 3 subs in any sort of bracket. But to the eagle-eyed watcher of this game, you will notice that all 3 were involved in the build-up to Martinelli's goal. And what's interesting is that I think this was intentional. Arteta's obviously said to Tomiyasu, just make a run, right? Because if you watch it, Tomiyasu breaks away from Foden on the left-hand channel. And he makes a run into the box. Now, Foden's probably thinking he's had Zinchenko inverting the whole game. So, he let him pass. Partey is waiting for Tomiyasu to make that run and launches a box from the centre of the park. A box? A ball. Now, Tomiyasu is clear because Foden's let him run. The defenders, until now, are preoccupied with Havertz in the box. No one's marking Tomiyasu. So Tomiyasu heads it to Havertz, who then lays it off for Martinelli's winner. Is that managerial masterclass or is that luck? I don't know. I think for me, the fact that Partey was waiting for Tomiyasu to make that run before launching the ball, it means that it was intentional. So it was really smart, for the whole game. We maybe played into their hands and that one moment, to break away. And sure, it was very, very fortunate to get the winner like that, but you don't care how it goes in. You don't care.
If it was worked on the training ground, then it's not lucky at all. You've played specifically for it. I found it all a bit confusing because I didn't understand where Tomiyasu was playing for large parts of the game. I got suspicious that what may have happened is it's like a throwback to like 90s football where you're like, right, just send the big man, just put him up top. It doesn't really matter what his role is necessarily. He's just there. He's an unaccounted for anomaly to just cause chaos amongst the Man City centre-backs and have Martinelli and everyone just buzzing around him and just see what happens.
I mean, for the goal, certainly.
Launch it to the big man and see what happens, and it worked.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually fabulous sub to have, Tomiyasu, because he can play across all the back 4. He's comfortable as an inverted left back. He's really, really solid on his day. And when he first started last year, he was really strong and he went for a bit of a dip. So it's nice to see him returning to some sort of form. Anyway, time moves upon us. Last question. Is this the start of a real title race, or are City just gearing up for a strong January, February, March demolition job?
I would like it to be, but if we go through the teams, I think Tottenham will naturally drop off at some point because this is the best start they've ever had to a Premier League season.
Mhm.
And people will remember they were also top last season and that didn't end very well. So there is precedent for this. Liverpool got real problems at the back still. We can see the first goal every game, so I'm still worried about us as a serious contender. So I'd say it's still between Arsenal and City, and I think Arsenal got better in the summer. City got maybe slightly worse. So I would say maybe just the same title race as before, with City winning because that's what they do. But I'm not expecting it to be four-way, but I'm happy to be proved wrong. But I think it's just still the two favourites like before.
Yeah, I mean, Spurs, well, come on, Spurs. You can't underplay what Spurs are doing. But I almost feel like Spurs are doing what Arsenal did last year, which is getting a bit too gassed, a bit too early. That may go against them. Can they keep it up? We shall see. But as we move on, Burnley 1, Chelsea 4 at Turf Moor. Now, this was funny because I went to Ashford International on the weekend to get some bargain clothes for work. And I was following this on the way there. And lo and behold, 1-0 Burnley. They went ahead. Everything was just brilliant. Man United were down.
I know.
Chelsea were down. It was just fantastic. And then I did some shopping. And I come back to look at it. Chelsea 3-1 up. And I was shocked. But then I was shocked at how shocked I was, because you shouldn't be shocked that Chelsea are 3-1 up against a relegation candidate. But then it throws this whole thing into, I don't know. It's like suspended belief, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just can't figure out Chelsea at the moment. But this could be again, and we thought this after they thumped Luton.
What, another turning point? Just a circle, basically. Their turning point is just going in a circle, tricking you into thinking they're going to be good.
Imagine if they lost 1-0 to Burnley and go into the international break, and then they've got their absolutely horrific run of games. Oh, God. You don't even want to think about it if you're a Chelsea fan. So, I mean, it is still a massive win for them. Make no mistake.
They needed this win. Back-to-back victories for Chelsea for the first time since March. That's nice for them. But Hugh is right. Post-international break, it is bad. Their run of fixtures is bad. If Burnley have had all the bad fixtures up until now, Chelsea are about to get a lot of them. A lot of tough games. So a very timely, confidence-boosting win. And my main takeaway from this game was, I think I finally saw what the Chelsea midfield could be. Because you've got Caicedo, best game so far for Chelsea. Just not back to his best, but you can see why he's there. You can see why they spent too much money on him. Like, he was playing very, very close to the halfway line the entire time. Sometimes just deep into the Burnley half and just like chopping any sort of counter-attack that came. Enzo's just there pulling the strings. Then Gallagher he's just, you know his role. He is the workhorse. And so you've got like Silk in Enzo, Steele in Caicedo, and then just energy in Gallagher. And I was like, I get it now. I am finally seeing the madness. I'm seeing the vision. And it all sort of came together here. Because, for most of the game, basically, all of the teams were just in Burnley's half. It was so compressed. And Burnley just couldn't get out. They couldn't get the ball. They couldn't get out. And Chelsea just wore them down time and time again with all their crazy players up top.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. So it's very like high press, very like Pochettino. High press, lots of energy, and pretty clinical actually, overall.
Yeah, some great goals. Palmer got his first Premier League goal as well. I know it's from the spot, but they are shaping it up. An exciting little team, aren't they?
Yeah. Amen. Yeah, I think on the Burnley side, it's not looking good for Burnley, I'd say. They made 4 changes and they were bad. They conceded 4 goals. So
looking good for Burnley.
That's not good.
And more importantly, it's not looking good for company at this point.
Nah. They have had really hard fixtures, though. You look at all their home fixtures and it's like Chelsea, Newcastle, Man City, Arsenal, and like, I don't know, Tottenham or something. It was a joke. It was a lot. So if they haven't got a win in the next 3 or 4 games, then I think he's probably going to go. But you would assume that there's an understanding that all of these games were no-point games, realistically, when you sort of mark out the calendar. I think these are sort of free hits.
What's different about company situation compared to, say, was it Gareth Edwards or Rob Edwards at Luton? I think it's Rob Edwards at Luton.
Rob Edwards at Luton.
Heckingbottom is that if you compare the investment over the summer for Burnley versus the other two, it's massive. Like they backed company to succeed. So I think that's the only thing working against him. I agree. It'd be quite harsh to fire him based off his current run, despite the results. But you can understand why. You get a bit jumpy as an owner when you see your team and you sunk hundreds of millions of pounds into a new squad. You'd expect a bit more, regardless, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and I think the risk is that morale from dominating the championship and coming up and really, having a good feeling about the season has now really bottomed out going into the international break. All that momentum is gone. They have to build that from fresh. And so the easier games they're coming into with their heads down. And that's always a risk that they just don't play as well as they can. And then they don't get the results they want and it becomes a horrible spiral. And yeah, at that point, they're probably in big trouble. But I still back them to do well and get a win before October's out. I think they'll be fine.
Let's see. Now, back to Chelsea before we move on. I want to earmark the next run of games until mid-December. And I want you to kind of tot up how many points realistically you think they'll get. Right. Chelsea versus Arsenal is next up after the international break. Then Chelsea...
0 points.
0. Then Chelsea versus Brentford.
1 point.
Okay, then we move on to Tottenham versus Chelsea.
0 points. Stay on 1.
Okay, and then we've got Chelsea versus Manchester City.
Definitely 0 points and a -5 goal difference.
Okay, and then we've got Newcastle versus Chelsea.
Oh my God. Yeah. Do you know what? Fuck it. Midweek fixtures for Newcastle. They're getting to a draw. 2 points now.
Okay, next one, Chelsea versus Brighton. It's a little bit of a derby.
Can only be a loss for Chelsea.
It's got to be a loss.
Can only be a loss for Chelsea.
Right.
Brighton will be up for that game every time.
And then to round off this beautiful run of fixtures, and you versus Chelsea.
We always draw, so 3 points in total.
Cool, so a solid 3 points from 7 games. Oh, I hope you're right. It's bad, isn't it? That is bad.
So that would leave them averaging 14 points from 15 games, so less than a point a game, if that prediction holds true, which would be stellar stuff yet again.
Right, Chelsea fans, stick that in your pipe and smoke it. I can't wait to see how it plays out for you lot. Anyway, on to Brighton. I wasn't meant to say that, but it is Brighton. Brighton 2, Liverpool 2. Good game, first and foremost.
Yeah, good game. Was fun. I was watching it in Angel Oak, but I was sitting outside, so without my glasses, I could barely fucking make out what was going on. But from what I saw, Brighton were dominating us for a long time. Oh, shock. Liverpool started slowly. Oh my God, we made a stupid mistake to concede the first goal. Rinse, copy, repeat.
That was a
Cut that bit for next match.
Mistake, although I think Alisson could have done better, to be honest.
Yeah. It looked like Alisson could do better. If that was a Nana, there'd be a lot of memes about it. So he can probably take the L there. But again, VVD just hospital passing to MacAllister not being awake to receive it. There's a lot of mitigation that could have happened to just not do that. There's not really any value in passing to MacAllister at that point. But he loves Brighton. In his soul, he just wanted it for some reason. He got confused.
Got robbed by Dingra, who had a great game, by the way. And Alisson's just slow motion.
He did.
It was just like, oh, he scored. What the fuck? He scored.
Yeah. It was weird. It was weirdly gentle, but yeah, Brighton were good overall. I think they probably shaded it. I think they probably deserved to win, but a draw's not unfair. Mo Salah,
inevitable.
2 goals, mate. He does what he does.
Inevitable.
He's actually doing bits this season. 5 goals, 4 assists already. Yeah, I thought the first goal was nice. Like, good pressing, good possession. You can see the link-up play between Darwin Núñez and Salah is developing. Because Núñez has got 5 assists this season, and they're all for Salah, which is interesting. So he doesn't seem to want to feed Diaz or Jota or anyone else, but he does like feeding Salah.
No, it's probably a bit skewed, isn't it? Because Salah can always score. And it was a lovely goal. I mean, the lead from Harvey Elliott really made it. He deserves the assist, in all fairness.
Yeah. Mo Salah's son was right to leave it. You could see little chest bump. He was like,
well,
no
respect it. You know, Salah's like, I love scoring, so thank you for letting me score.
Yeah, get out of my way. Let me score. He loves goals. And yeah, penalty, I was a bit stressed because his record is a bit patchy, but he scored 2 in a row now, so I can just slowly pretend that he didn't miss about 3 in a row last
Wipe it from
season.
your mind. It's a new
And this
season now.
Mo's back to his best. His mojo is back well and truly. But my big shout out, my man of the match in this game, VAR. I think it's fair to say that we've got a bit of credit in the bank now because VAR came to our rescue. Penalty came in, was like, yes, that's a penalty. I was like, thanks. Could have easily just brushed aside. Probably could have been a red card, realistically, VAR, for being honest. Last man and all that. But, beggars can't be choosers. Mitoma had a pretty innocuous period where he was so quick that he went around Matip, but Matip definitely had fouled him. And Mitoma's been penalised for being too good and riding the foul. And then it's hit Van Dijk's arm after it bounced off his thigh. So it's a collection of things that could have...
It wasn't a red, that wasn't a pen. It was like point blank range, Like, let's get some sensibility back into this.
Listen, mate, after last weekend, I'm not feeling good about VAR, so I was like, thank you, VAR. VAR being neutral felt like a VAR win for me.
Well, I mean, they had a stinker in our game as well, right? So it's not fixed. You know what Don Robbie from AFTV said, which made me laugh, but he's also right. Let me try and articulate it the way he did. He said, it shouldn't be referees doing VAR. It should be the nerds who do that as a job.
Yeah. That's facts, though.
Because he's absolutely right. Let's get people who do that as their day-to-day. Like, their only job is to do the VAR lines. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's not just put incompetent refs who, have had 2 weeks training to do it.
Let's also... Robbie is spot on, though, genuinely, because you think about that point, right? Everyone, just think about your workplace, right? Think about some 40-year-old bloke who comes in baggy shirts. You know what I mean? He works in sales, whatever. Got good chat. And then suddenly, you put him in tech support. You give him 2 weeks training, and then he's in tech support. He's not very good at his job. He doesn't know what Google is. He doesn't know how to use the Google. It's not a thing. Don't just assume the people who run around the pitch and apply the rules can operate technology.
Because they can't.
And vice versa. Yeah.
And that's
completely different jobs. Just get nerds in. Get the nerds.
It is human error because the technology wasn't broken. It just wasn't administered correctly. It's just, that's even more infuriating than anything else. So anyway, we move on because I want to fit one more game in before the break. West Ham 2, Newcastle 2, a thriller in East London, Stratford. Exciting. It was a good result for West Ham, I thought. I mean, arguably were hard done by, right? There were some controversial decisions in this one.
Yeah, I think so. I think overall, equalising in the 89th minute means that they will feel the better of the two. But if you break down the actual game, in the same way that Kovacic did 2 yellow card challenges close to each other, Guimaraes did the same. He got a yellow card, and then he did such a cynical foul.
It was a red card. I don't know how that's not given, man. That was a red card.
That was a Fernandinho special where he somehow managed to get away with a blatant yellow card to stop a counter-attack. So I respect it, Brazilian to Brazilian. He's obviously learned from the best, but it was definitely not legit.
No, I agree. I mean, if that's not a second yellow, then I just don't know what is. I almost feel like the PGMOL are just so scared to make a decisive decision like that could affect the game. But then it's bollocks, because if you look at the Luton Tottenham game, which we'll get onto, it's just no consistency, bro. There's no consistency.
And this is why it's so annoying, because you hate the decisions because they're like, everything's a red card, everyone's penalised. And then when it's time to penalise everyone, they only penalise half of them. So you get this discrepancy, and then everyone gets annoyed. So then they get scared, so they don't do it. And it's just like
what I found out on the
bad
weekend?
Decisions. They can't win at this
VAR
point.
Can't get involved in the second yellow card decisions, which just seems like the most ridiculous, pointless. Just like, okay, see what? Like, if it's a straight red, they can review, but they can't review the second yellow. Come on, dude. Who's making the rules here?
That is
I'm sure someone out there can provide some sort of logic why that has to be the way, but it just like boggles the mind sometimes. It's like there's no common sense being applied here anymore.
It's like we're dealing with like an insurance company and they're like, oh, I can't help you with that, sorry. Can't help you with that either. That's not covered
Well,
under
it
your VAR
is.
policy.
It's exactly that.
Weird.
It's like just a random policy that they just decided they don't want to help with. It's just crazy. I mean, nothing will beat the
not my job.
The Liverpool
Not my
Spurs
job.
one. That will go down in history. I'm so glad they released it. That's hilarious. I mean,
that'll be the moment that VAR either died or got radical changes. That was the real pinnacle moment.
Turns out I got neither. Let's talk about Isaac. I agree. He's brilliant, isn't he? He's fantastic. He's so good.
He's excellent. We all knew it, though. We all knew it. I don't know why no one else tried to buy him before. Everyone knew he was good. Okay, I can only say this so many times. Buy Jonathan David. Everyone who's listening, just buy Jonathan David. Don't overthink it. Just buy him. You'll be sorted for life. Isaac's the same kind of guy. He's like 22, 23, and he's just good. He's not just a poacher. He's not just like a normal forward like Callum Wilson. He's like creative. He's tricky. He's all of the above, and he's just got it. He's got that thing. Whatever that is, he's got it, and he's special. And that's Newcastle sorted. Best striker since Alan Shearer to play for Newcastle. And that's them sorted for like the next 5 years.
I agree.
At least.
Now let's talk about on the other end. Mohamed Kudus got the 89th minute equaliser for West Ham. It's arguable to say that maybe, and it wasn't a game of many chances, but you feel like Newcastle edged it or certainly dominated it. But then also West Ham are the masters of the David Moyes smash and grab. So, I mean, who do you think? Do you think 2-2's a fair outcome on this one?
I don't know if 2-2's a fair outcome, but I think games like these are weird because both managers can play the way they want and play the way that suits their team the best. In that West Ham can just chill and counter-attack and try and hit them on the break, and Newcastle can just dominate and try and build up, more progressively. So in some ways, I think it's fair. I also would say that I think Kudus coming on and having at least double the amount of energy of everyone else after their midweek adventures for both clubs, that just gave him a little bit of an advantage to sort of break through the middle and just score. Like he just outpaced everybody easily within that sort of central, attacking mid area. So I think he was the perfect person to bring on to take advantage of those tired legs. But yeah, that's how you make a debut, baby. That's how you do it. And everyone knew he was good.
He looks good. He looks like what they need up front. Certainly not someone like Scamacca. I quite like West Ham squad, say it quietly. I said Moisey was going to first to get fired, and I'm eating my shoes. That's not saying.
We didn't do well in that category.
Who did you go for?
Not do well. I said it'll be Ange, so Postecoglou.
Why do we even do this?
So,
we don't know anything. I can't believe you said Ange and they're top.
Yeah, I know, it's so fucking dumb. I actually know nothing about football. I know nothing. I'm a fraud.
Burnley, Bournemouth, Sheffield and Luton. It's an obvious one.
I don't know why either of us would not choose someone whose name's Heckingbottom.
We play for manager. When has that man ever succeeded in the Prem? Let me tell you, never. So,
literally.
Lessons learned. Right, we're taking a break. When we're back, we're going to cover the rest of the games.
Welcome back from the Backseat Football Podcast. So next game, Manchester United 2, Brentford 1. I feel like everyone was disappointed watching this. Everyone apart from Scott McTominay and the rest of Old Trafford. Because this was looking like it was going to be maybe not the final nail, but maybe the second to last nail in the coffin for Eric Ten Hag. But
I wouldn't even say
come off the hour, mate.
It's just enjoyable. Again, it's just so enjoyable watching Man United suffer. I guess this is how they felt watching Arsenal suffer for all these years. Now I'm on the other side of it. I understand the appeal. Like when you're doing relatively well, and someone like your historic rivals just doing absolutely turgid, it makes your weekends even better. So I just say.
Yeah. It's that wonderful, wonderful German word. Was it Schnaudenfraud?
Schadenfreude.
To truly delight in the misery of others. And that is a real part of supporting a football team, really. Just enjoying your rivals just scramble around in the mud.
Just
And
literally.
honestly, does this actually change anything? Does this change the mood? Maybe temporarily, but I feel like it's just masking over the cracks. I don't feel like this is a good win
No,
for Manchester
it
United. I
doesn't
don't think
feel
it
like it
changes
was
anything.
doesn't feel like it was a turnaround of performance per se. It feels
Nah,
like they pulled something out the bag and in stoppage time.
Exactly.
That's exactly what happened. Right?
exactly. It was just another like emergency correction to stop another disaster. It's not a controlled performance. It's not a good performance. It's just Scott McTominay scoring 2 goals deep into extra time, which no one saw
I
coming.
mean, he is on a goal scoring run, to be fair. But it's weird to think that they were trying to get. Well, it's not weird to think because he's actually not that good. But they were trying to get rid of Scott McTominay, weren't they?
They were, but of course he's on pretty good money, and Manchester United are not good at selling players. Like if in another segment we go through all the players that they've sold, they very rarely get a good price because they always renew their contracts and then just let them run it down because no one wants to buy them. It's better to take 10 mil and save 10 mil on wages than try and get 40 mil and just pay them another 10 mil for a year and then let them go. Like, it's odd. It's an odd way of doing it. I think they were trying to charge like 45 for West Ham.
The thing with Man United is you need the players that you want to sell to be in form. Arsenal are terrible sellers too. Yeah. But we sold Balogun for 40 mil, right? Is he any good? We'll never know. He was shit for us. But he had a good season. That's the right time to sell. You know?
Facts.
And so it's all about selling at the right time. And they should. I think Harry Maguire didn't want to go in the summer. And I guess, as you say, McTominay's the same. But then that's their fault for having them on exorbitant wages, right?
Yes.
It's a hard one. As a top 4 club, it's hard to sell well. And I envy clubs that manage it, to be honest with you. To know at the right time when to sell.
It is a difficult one. You feel like the tendency is always just to hold on too long because selling someone after they've had a good season feels like inviting unnecessary fan pressure, inviting unnecessary media scrutiny. But it's having the confidence to do it. And Liverpool have lost the ability to do that since Michael Edwards left. We used to be really good at moving people on at the right moment and bringing people in. Like, kept Henderson like 2 years too long. Virgil van Dijk, arguably, we might have kept him too long already. Realistically, he doesn't look that good anymore. So it's a tough one. It's a very tough one. One player that Man United could be looking to get rid of soon, Casemiro. He looks rubbish.
I was going to ask you, hooks at half time. Is this the beginning of the end? It does feel like it's more than just a drop in form.
Well, I think the infamous meme of him as a kebab worker in the summer has kind of come true. Like he just looks off it. Like he looks lazy, bit out of shape still. And I just think he was a short-term panic buy, and he was unexpectedly good last season. And this is just the normal sort of decline that you'd expect. What I will say also, Real Madrid on no mugs. If they sell someone, it's because they're probably done. So the fact that Real Madrid got Tchouaméni to replace him, who was on the up, and they basically just switched them. They took that money from Casemiro, put it Tchouaméni.
But we shouldn't look at Madrid too much. Like, they have the clout, so they can just cherry pick the best youngsters, and they've been doing that for a number of years now. But like you say, it's a warning, right? But then they sold Odegaard to Arsenal for 35 mil. So different profile.
That's true.
But it is surprising to see the drop off. Beyond Casemiro, Onana was poor again. He's just not a good goalkeeper, is he?
Doesn't seem to be very good at being a goalkeeper. He is good at being a meme.
Personality, though.
Yeah.
He needs to back it up with a performance sooner or later. Like, I
like
his attitude, but it is a bit crazy. Like, they're
conceding so many
soft goals.
Yeah, like they had a lot of problems last year, and David De Gea was apparently a problem, but now it seems like they've created an even bigger problem in a goalie who just can't really save stuff properly. Because like that goal from Jensen was very savable. He got a hand to it. A strong hand, but it still went in.
Strong wrist would have saved that. Yeah. Okay, but then we shouldn't be too half glass empty because they did win, and against international break on a win. It's not the best win, but a win's a win at the end of the day. It gives Ten Hag some more time. and
It does.
keeps the fans at bay for a bit. Before we move on, though, we should mention Rashford. What's happened to him? I reckon it's the contract.
It's defo the contract. He was playing for the contract. He got the contract. He's always been streaky though, and his streaks are like
He has.
good 4 months every like year and a half to 2 years. They're not like streaks
He's only
within
got
the
one
season.
goal. One goal
Yeah.
in 8 games so far. Not good enough.
Yeah, maybe they should have tried to sell him to PSG in the summer. Just saying.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing. It really
It is indeed. It is indeed.
Right?
I don't know what's up with him. He's bad. Sancho's gone. Sancho's done. Anthony's got his old fucking domestic abuse allegations. It's just a mess. It's just a mess. They've got so many injuries, to be fair, as well.
That's on the outside as well. Imagine how it must feel inside the dressing room. I bet there's so many factions. People on Ten Hag's side, most people on Sancho's side. That's the outside you don't see. And it's just
so
it
true.
doesn't scream harmonious at the moment. And I'm sure it is affecting players. It would certainly affect me if I was in a sort of team like that.
100%. You think about going to work and it's like really negative and toxic and the whole world's like looking and laughing at you. I wouldn't want to go in. I wouldn't want to like turn up. My head would be all over the place, I think. Too much noise goes on around that club. Backline was just dirty.
They're just like a reality version of Madrid, in my opinion. Like they have the clout to United, but they're just trashy at the moment. I
see what you mean.
They're just not it. But anyway, time's of the essence. Everton 3, Bournemouth 0. Bournemouth are crap. Like Bournemouth are
terrible.
Really crap, aren't they? They're just really bad. I don't even want to give Everton too much praise because clearly Bournemouth aren't up to it this season.
I'm not going to lie, Bournemouth was shocking in this game. Like, they made so many mistakes at the back, including the first goal. Garner just picked up the ball after one of the defenders slipped over and just smashed it in. But they kept doing it. Like, so many mistakes, so many bad performances, so many instances of playing out from the back, like, very badly. Extremely poorly. And I just think it's getting to a point where you have to wonder what was the point of getting rid of Gary O'Neill, because Bournemouth looks so bad at defending and also toothless up front. And at least under Gary O'Neill, they were hard to beat and awkward to play against. They weren't good, but they weren't shit like they are now. They have got way worse. And I feel like we all got tricked and the manager is done. He's actually not. He's done.
He could be done.
Getting battered by Everton should be enough for anyone to get.
It doesn't make any sense why you would get rid of Gary O'Neill for a guy. I mean, okay, look, no one could have known how it was going to turn out, but I guarantee they will be performing better under Gary O'Neill than they were under this geezer. Do you know what I mean?
But they can't do any worse, mate.
They can't.
3 points.
3 points, minus 13 goal difference. They're getting thumped every weekend, and it's just hard to see where their points are going to come from. Whereas they were kind of a stubborn, resilient side under Gary last year.
Well, that's the thing. I mean? Like, Everton were on 4 points before this game. They're only 1 point ahead of them. This was a game where they had to compete, and they got absolutely turned over.
Turned over by Everton, of all people. Let's talk about Everton. Let's not take it away. It's a good win, but it's hard when your performers just get turned over like that and just give up, right?
It's a masterclass from the tactician. Don't let his bald head fool you. He's just a ginger Guardiola. What I will say is they did play well in this game. They were really aggressive again. They seem to sometimes want to turn up and play aggressive and play well. # they wanted it more. But the main reason that they won was because Jack Harrison played and he made his debut and he scored a great goal from like a corner that got headed out, and he just picked it up and just sort of crossed it in, just lobbed everyone, just hit it in. It was lovely. And then he got an assist for the third goal as well. You just think like he's on loan from Leeds. He's a pretty solid bottom half of the table performer, but he has output.
He was decent.
Yeah,
he made things happen.
And with him, James Garner, DCL, and is there anyone else? Dwight O'Neill. I feel like there's something there now.
That Beto fella up front looks all right.
He's just a solid, non-scoring battering ram guy. He's just a Benteke guy. But he, as opposed to no one, he's decent. As opposed to playing the ghost, the what's his name? Who's that fucking guy who can't score any goals no matter what?
Got Malpe.
Yeah, and as opposed to playing literally him and no one. At least Beto's got a bit of physical presence about him. But yeah, Everton, mate, they're slowly getting it together.
God, they'll kill your hopes, right? Next game they'll lose like 3-0 to Burnley or something, and you'll just be like, I don't know. It's hard to say anything when Bournemouth are this bad, but I won't miss Bournemouth, to be honest with you. I'm sick of Bournemouth myself.
Nah, they're just too. They're not Premier League enough, and they've got a picture of a topless man in their stadium still on the inside of one of the stands, and I don't like that.
You know what? That's
not for any particular reason. I'm just like,
it's a valid reason not to like him.
Just like grow up. Like you got promoted a long time ago. Like just fix it now. Just stop. Yeah. Just stop. It's unnecessary.
Speaking of people needing to grow up, Luton 0, Tottenham 1. Basuma, what are you doing, lads? What are you doing?
A dum-dum.
Imagine getting a second red for simulation. You absolute penis. What are you doing?
What a silly boy he is.
It is just terrible, isn't it? It was a terrible dive as well. I mean, he deserved it for that.
It was.
You know, at least try and make it convincing. I'm glad they got it right, though, right? Because if he didn't give a yellow card, they can't do anything about it because it was a second yellow. Mental.
Facts.
Mental.
Facts.
Mental.
I really enjoyed it. I was watching it back on Match of the Day, and like, this is what I love about English football, right? You can punch someone in the face, you can break someone's leg, you can say anything you want. As soon as someone dives, the commentators are just fuming, like uncontrollably, like frothing at the mouth.
Simulation's
almost
so much taboo, isn't it? You know, it's so frowned upon in English football.
In other countries, it's no problem. But yeah, like to paraphrase, it's just fucking the commentators going, shameful, a real walk of shame back to the tunnel, shameful. It's just so good. Like he's so annoyed, he's so vexed about it. And that made me laugh.
Yeah, that is quality, to be fair. And it's annoying because Tottenham, although they had like almost 1.3 XG within 10 minutes or something stupid, and they couldn't do it. And you felt like Luton were going to nick something off them here. And as an Arsenal fan, I might be slightly biased. I would love to have seen Tottenham slip up to the bottom side, Luton, certainly.
100%.
But no, these jammy bastards have done it again and got themselves 3 points from a situation where they really shouldn't have. And that's very upsetting for me. When will the luck run out? And will it run out?
Well, I think, again, it's all about James Maddison. Like, he created the goal. He created all the chances.
James Maddison, I'm sick of him. I'm sick of him already.
He's good. He is good. He's one of the highest performing players this season.
And jokes aside, he's very, very good.
He's basically carrying Spurs forward. He's the talisman. Maybe more than Son, I would argue. More than anyone.
Easily.
He's the guy. He is the guy now. He's Mr. Tottenham. He did it again in this game.
Mr. Tottenham. Ooh, disgusting.
I know. But they still have Richarlison, Hugh, and I think until they replace Richarlison,
there's no threat good. Until they get a centre forward that can score, it's game over. Like, you do worry, but then also, you know, Big Ange, new team, people trying to figure him out. Can they sustain it? I don't think they can sustain it.
No.
But that's just me being a pessimist.
No, they definitely can't. But, because you look at some of their wins, there was that, they scraped to win against Sheffield United. They scraped to win against Liverpool in the dying seconds.
Scraped to draw.
They scraped to win
Arsenal.
here.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Like, these are all games that could have all ended with no wins. 3 draws and a loss, for example. And then it would be very different.
But the fact is it wasn't. But you can't keep winning games in the last minute like that. It's not sustainable.
Exactly.
As Arsenal found out last year. So, they should drop off. But their squad, weirdly, looks really good. Van de Ven's a great centre-back. The midfield, obviously Basuma's had a shocker in this one, but the Sarr, Basuma midfield, I really like with Maddison at the top. Yes, they could replace Richarlison, but Kulu, Son, Richarlison's not bad front three. Porro's looking good.
It's not bad.
Udogie at left back looks brilliant. It's actually
he looks very good.
A really good young team.
I'd like to give us a bit of credit, Hugh, though. I'd like to just say to everyone listening, we were right. All last season on the pod, we said one thing about Tottenham. Why is Eric Dyer still playing? He's rubbish. And lo and behold, Eric Dyer doesn't play for Tottenham anymore, and they're top of the league. Is that coincidence?
I think not.
It is not coincidence. He is rubbish, and he should never play Premier League football
I
again.
forgot he existed.
Goodbye. Yeah, and look how good they are now. There's someone you've never heard of, Van der Ven. He looks like the best defender in the world in comparison.
Yeah, he's really good. Do you want to know a fun fact before we move on about Tottenham?
Would love to.
Did you know that Hugo Lloris is still employed by them? You know, I thought he left on
I
a
did
free.
not know that.
Yeah, he's still there, but he's not registered.
Is he on like a rolling
Absolute
contract?
chaos.
That's so
no
weird.
one knows what's happened there. A very acrimonious and inglorious way to go out.
That's so strange.
But
Well, so he's just like the Scott Carson of Tottenham now, just the hype man.
it's
Just there.
Scott Carson's registered.
Oh,
He can't play.
what?
He can't play.
He's not registered.
He's not in the squad, but he's still at Tottenham. Yeah, I know. That's exactly how I thought. Absolutely,
That's so
fucking mental
weird.
and so disrespectful to your club captain.
Oh my God.
Club would never. But anyway, Fulham 3, Sheffield 1. I'll be honest, didn't watch it. Go on, Jack, fill me in.
Well, what I will say is 2 teams with the least amount of shots this season. So whoever lost is truly the worst team in the league. And that's Sheffield United. We knew that. We did know that. And I feel like Fulham, who have scored basically no goals, I think they've got 1 win this season, maybe, score 3 goals when they have 2 strikers who score no goals. They have just a pretty average team and they're in bad form and they still bang you. It could have been 5-1 this game. They had so many chances. They were so dominant. You just think like Deckled over Reed, Willian, not very good, I don't think. And they just destroyed Sheffield United. Sheffield United are so bad.
So bad.
Like, as bad as we said Bournemouth are, as bad as we say Luton are, Sheffield United are a level below, in my opinion. They are so bad. They are going down with like less than 15 points. They are so shit. They have no defence. They have no attack. Their best player, Chris Basham, got stretchered off. Probably that's the end of his career. So sad for him. But like, end of the day,
God.
this is such an easy game. I would argue that if you can't beat Sheffield United this season, you don't deserve to have a good season. They're that bad.
We did say last year,
Sheffield United at home is so easy.
Are Fulham good? Or are they just exceeding every metric and having one of those seasons? And it turns out it's probably the latter, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They were having a good time.
I suppose actually Mitrovic is a big loss, right? And they didn't really replace him. They didn't bring that Carlos Vinicius in, who was on loan at Tottenham that one time.
He's rubbish. He is terrible.
He's proper dog, yeah.
Yeah, and Raul Jimenez is also terrible. Like, neither of them are good anymore.
No, it always seemed like a budget kind of replacement.
Carlos Vinicius never was.
And I get it, you try and cut costs, and if you have the same output, then it's clever. You save it for another day, but they really needed to replace Mitrovic with someone competent, and they haven't done that. So I don't think they're in trouble, because I think there are worse teams than Fulham this year. But
no one's in trouble this season. Like, Sheffield United are going down, Luton are going down, and Bournemouth are going down. Like, that's it. I feel like it's written already.
Yeah.
Definitely Sheffield United, though. I would wager a large amount of money that they're going down, but there'd be no point because you get nothing back.
Let's have a look.
What the odds are of Sheffield United going down? I reckon if you put £10 on, you'd get 11 back.
Okay, there.
She's got to work out how odds work now.
I actually do. What does 1 to 7 mean?
So I think that means if you put £7 on, you'd get £8 back if they got relegated.
Okay, so all we need to do is put £7,000 on, and we'll get £1,000.
Yeah,
let's not do that.
And that's what a lot of people think. And then they lose the £7,000.
Let's not do that. I see how this happens.
Yeah,
I see how this happens. But in all seriousness, Sheffield are going down unless for some sort of miracle. But
they
miracles have happened
awful.
before, but they don't look good. They look rubbish.
This is the joint worst Premier League start to a season. They have 1 point.
It's just
minus 16 goal difference and 1 point after 8 games. 8 games.
They're doing their best.
Extrapolate that. Extrapolate that over a season. It's fucking 5 points.
Oh my god. What's the lowest ever? Is it Derby County's 12 or 13 or 11?
Yeah, or 11 maybe. 12,
It
yeah,
could be
maybe
11.
12. So,
It should get beaten.
Yeah.
I think also the drop off compared to last season's relegation fight, like it's massive. Last season there was no obvious candidate. It was just, swings and roundabouts. Whereas this is like these guys are trash. But anyway,
mate,
on to the
they're
final
awful.
game. Because we're missing out one game because it was crap. Wolves won.
0-0s
Villa
in the bin.
won. West Midlands derby.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But, the derby that no one cares about. It's a bit like Middlesbrough in the Sunderland-Newcastle derby. It's just like, no one cares about you, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one really cares about this in the Midlands. We'll call it a derby because that's what it is. 1-1. It's actually a good result for Wolves, isn't it? Against the kind of really informed Villa side.
Yeah.
Although Villa did play on Thursday. And I wonder if that had anything to do with it.
Yeah, I think so. Because actually, a lot of the clubs that played midweek drew and didn't have a great time. And even the ones that did win, like Arsenal, the game was relatively not turgid, but it wasn't like a high intensity game. It was more like a tactical battle. So it does make sense. Does take a toll. But yeah, good point for Wolves, who are, where are they? They are 14th with 8 points from 8 games. Such a Wolves number of points. 1 point per game average, 1 goal per game average. They're just so binary. Everything they do just equals 1
Gary
or 0.
O'Neill really
it's
has
actually
just taken
incredible.
the blueprint from Bournemouth and just applied it to Wolves. And he's grinding the results out. I have to give him credit. Like, Wolves are going to be safe because of that man.
100%. This is what he does. Like, his body of work is making teams okay and hard to play against. And that's fine. I think the only interesting thing in this game was Villa switched to 3 at the back because Wolves have just switched back to the old Wolves who play 3/5 at the back. So Villa switched up to 3-5-2 in this game. And what that told me was that Emery adjusts depending on the opponent a lot more. Some managers just play their game basically and they make little nuanced changes. But Emery will basically he will match up whatever he thinks is best to mitigate the risk. And I don't really think it worked, to be honest, although I think they were quite unlucky, Villa. Like, Watkins hit the post a few times.
That's my guy.
A few times, at least one time. But the main shout out, Hwang. Man like Hwang.
Korean guy.
That Korean guy.
Yeah, boy, that's going to stick that.
He's on fire. 5 goals in 8 games in the Premier League this season. I've got a quiz for you, Hugh. How many goals did Hwang get last season in 27 games?
Not many. 2?
Very close. 3.
I was close. I was well close. Damn. He's not prolific, but he looks good.
Well, he's prolific now, currently. So it's an interesting one. He's on a hot streak, won't last. Wolves need someone to be on a hot streak at all times because they don't have an obvious route to goal who's not called Pedro Neto. And that will be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, Wolves still, on paper, have quite an exciting team. I still hope Fabio Silva is going to come good in some sort of way, but it's not looking great at the moment, is it? It's not alive, Fabio Silva.
He's just
don't know what's going on there. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just weird.
I think it's a curious case of just moving to the wrong club in the wrong league at the wrong time.
Yeah.
You know, like João Felix moving to Atletico? It's like a much worse version of that. He's just gone to the wrong place. He should be in Portugal still, getting better, building up muscle, getting his confidence. Instead, he's just in the Midlands where it's miserable, just getting battered by, like, I don't know, Craig Dawson.
But he went on loan, didn't he? I think it was Anderlecht. Didn't really see how he did, to be honest with you. He's had quite a few loans. It does feel like last chance saloon for him.
Obviously, not very well. Yeah, that was a Jorge Mendes special there.
Yeah, he was expensive as well, but we already covered that last week. Right. There was also Crystal Palace and Nottingham 0, but fuck it, who cares? You don't care, we don't care. Any other business, mate, before we wrap it?
Yes, fan mailbox. Got a question from Christian, which I assume is for me. Why do you hate Ollie Watkins so much? That's a good question. That's a good question, Christian. And The answer is
He's got no reason. He's just racist.
twofold. If only it was that simple to explain. If only I was just a raging Brexiteer. But no, I'm not racist. It's weird to have to justify that on a public podcast. But it'd be really awkward if someone just clips that up. Yes, I am racist. Why do I hate Ollie Watkins? Because he's average. Because he's average, Christian, and he gets too much praise for being average. But also, secondly, we reached out to his girlfriend or his wife at the start of season 1, and she didn't get back to us. And I never forgave.
It's true.
That.
She did air us, but rightfully so. She's a wag now. She hasn't got time for that. Fair play.
Or she could have been a core component of From the Backseat.
I mean, she was carrying his
And
child,
that would have...
but, it's fine. Look, let me ask you. Right, in 116 games, how many goals do you think he scored? This is Premier League only.
Premier League only? 116 games. 38.
38. It's actually very close. 44. Is that a good or bad output for a Villa team that isn't fantastic? Remember, there was under Dean Smith when he joined.
1 in 3. It's not great. So he's worse than Jermaine Defoe, would be my initial thoughts there. Worse than Darren Bent.
He's got a strike rate of 0.38.
Average. There you go.
Average, 0.38. But I think he's solid. He's young. He's English. It comes with a premium. And he can score goals from wherever. Yes, it's not pretty. He's not a pretty player. But he's functional, isn't he? That's why we like Ollie Watkins.
Everyone just needs to calm down. He's average. He's just Darren Bent, but modern.
Darren Bent was way more prolific. Let's not get that twisted.
Okay, he's just a poor man's, but more expensive Darren Bent. That's why I hate him.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christian.
That might be true. Well, thank you for the question, Christian. It's great to have some fan mail. Do keep it coming in, guys. We're more than happy to answer questions, especially around Ollie Watkins and his fiancée/wife. So, I'd like to apologise personally for the poor quality from my end recently. It's down to my internet. I'm not even going to apologise for me. It's down to the internet. I blame the internet. So the schedule's been a bit shit, but we're back. Hopefully this, you know what, this might even be really shit as well. So let's just not speak too soon.
This might not see the light of day. Yeah.
Just keep listening. We'll still be here week on week. We'll see you after the break. The international break, that is. And yeah, thanks very much.
Yeah. And stay tuned on socials. You never know, there might be a bonus pod on something that tickles our fancy. But if not, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Thank you very much. Goodbye.